Hello everyone and welcome to our next topic on this online course, globalization and its impact on vaccines. First, let's define what globalization is. It is the process in which an organization operates and influences in a worldwide scale. In the context of vaccines, globalization has several effects, and this is a non-exhaustive list. It allows for support through global funding, which can help in advancing studies on neglected diseases. It helps in harmonizing regulatory process and procedures in some countries around the world that can help in decreasing the complexity of market authorization. And finally, it can help increase the manufacturing capacity, especially in the context of developing countries. So with that in mind, we briefly go through the paradox of vaccine production. Currently, the available vaccines in the market are preventive, although there are also therapeutic vaccines in the pipeline, which will not be discussed in this presentation. A vaccine is based on a pathogen, and each pathogen contains an antigen, which act as a danger signal that will stimulate the immune system to protect us from the disease-causing ones. This means that this is a unique pattern per pathogen, and even within different strains of a single pathogen. But even though the concept of every vaccine is unique, the regulatory environment that allows for a vaccine to be market authorized is rigidly streamlined, and this high variability in the pathogens and very tight regulations for authorization creates a bottleneck to the production, which in turn is a good result because it creates an assurance that these vaccines have been proven to be safe and cost-effective, but it also slows down the development of new vaccines. As you can recall from the paradox figure, the regulatory bodies are the ones that provides a manufacturing company market authorization on vaccines based on its safety, efficacy, and quality. Each country has their own regulatory authority and processes to ensure that an authorized product is within standards. One of the main ideas is based from the ICH, or International Council for Harmonization, and their goal is to improve the efficiency on development and the approval of new medicines and vaccines. Though the idea and the principle of regulatory authorities are similar, there is a difference on how stringent and mature the process is. There may be differences in their requirements, the procedures, and the timelines of authorization process. This creates a complexity of getting an authorization in several countries around the world. This creates a scenario where the vaccines may be authorized in one country and not authorized in another. Another aspect that globalization has affected is the manufacturing of vaccines. It is a common practice for companies to have different sites for each step of the production that may be situated in different countries. So once a product has been approved, manufacturing starts with the delivery of the raw materials towards the manufacturing site. The manufacturing of the antigen is the most crucial part of the process, since this is the active ingredient of the vaccine and determines the quality and effectiveness of the product. Afterwards, the vaccine is delivered to another site for bulk manufacturing of the antigens to create them in quantity, and next transferred to the next site for formulation, which will increase its stability and immunogenicity. Next, this formula will then be transferred to the filling site, which places the finalized formula into the respective container. It can be a vial or a pre-filled syringe. The second to the last step would be the packaging, where the product is placed with the correct label and boxing, and the final step is the lot release after the national regulatory authorities conduct a final quality assurance test to check that the products before shipment and distribution. This entire process has quality control measures in each step to ensure that the vaccines are kept safe and effective, with some vaccines having additional specific steps depending on the type. The duration differs from vaccine to vaccine, but usually it lasts around 2 years. The vaccine industry has several important stakeholders, which make up the vaccine ecosystem. The simplified version you can see here consists of the producers, which can be R&D driven or non-R&D driven. These producers provide the vaccine to either a direct procurement or a pooled procurement process, and these procurement processes will then be distributed to either the national government, supranational organizations such as WHO, or through the financial subsidy system of vaccines in low-income countries, which is Gavi. As you can see in the figure, the solid lines indicate the vaccine supply flow, and the dashed lines indicate the cash flow. This ecosystem shows the flow of vaccine supply from the producers to the consumers and ensures that the flow is continuous in a global scale. From the ecosystem, we go to the suppliers of vaccines. The logos below are just some of the big names in the vaccine industry and are the major suppliers of vaccines worldwide. An increasing demand for vaccine requires an increase in the capacity to supply these vaccines. And one of the steps to increase the capacity is in developing countries to produce their own vaccine or take part in the vaccine manufacturing process. This increases the capacity for production and at the same time helps in decreasing export or import costs. One of the factors that increase the demand for vaccines worldwide is the World Health Organization's expanded program of immunization, or EPI, which is a 40-year-old program which aims that the populations at risk to vaccine-preventable diseases may have universal access. This led to increased coverage of vaccinations and decreased disease burden worldwide. Yet there is still inequity between the accessibility to these vaccines in a low-income and a high-income country. Current efforts to bridge this gap is by Gavi, UNICEF, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations, to name a few. But other than finances, there are other factors internal to a country, such as lack of political motivation, that will affect the vaccine coverage. So in conclusion, globalization has helped the vaccine industry grow and opened opportunities of growth worldwide. Vaccines undergo a strict assessment before receiving the authorization to sell in a specific country. The manufacturing process is long and requires quality control and assurance in every step. Multiple stakeholders are involved in the flow of vaccine supply, and there is a continuous increase of vaccine demand worldwide, which in turn requires the suppliers to increase their capacity for production. Thank you very much for your attention.